terms of their treatment.
All right. Demas, coming to you, and the topic at hand, this is on the plan to decongest prisons and the commitment equally the government has said it will undertake, including Interior CS Professor Kithure Kindiki, who earlier this year announced plans were underway to establish a prisoner enterprise fund, which he said will come in handy in supporting inmates as they left or leave prisons. We'll be doing a quotation of the same, but the operation of the prisons is way above their capacities and now on the verge of collapse. How can this chronic overcrowding in prisons be addressed from a multi-stakeholders perspective, given that you are a representative of the ICJ here in Kenya?
Yes. First of all, when we are over capacity within our prisons, it means the quality of life of inmates is not at par with international standards, which means that even the main aim of rehabilitation is sort of defeated, because the situations that they find themselves in, the equipment that they have, we can even say the food and bedding and so forth is not as par with the international standards. Mm-hmm. And so, first of all, we need to modernize our prisons. We need to expand our prisons, first of all. However, I think we need to acknowledge the work that has been done by many actors, including the National Council on Administration of Justice, okay, led by the Chief Justice, the ODPP, and civil society organizations within the country. Because part of the problems that have been sort of begun to be addressed is, for example, the issue of petty offenses. Mm-hmm. And we have seen efforts, for example, in 2015, there was an audit of the criminal justice system. That audit really found out that if you look at the criminal justice system, it's mainly the poor who are incarcerated. It's mainly the poor and the young who are charged with petty offenses and so on and so forth. And there was an injustice in that whole scenario. Fast forward to this year. And
then the poor, then what are the contributory factors? Is it the lack of legal representation?
That is one.
Yeah.
There's one, lack of legal representation, and there's others whose status really put them in proximity with the criminal justice system. So, for example, if you're a hawker in town, if you're a tout, you will likely be arrested under petty offenses and find yourself in the criminal justice system not just once but many times. Mm-hmm. Whereas a person of means and a person in more, as it were, mainstream careers and so on and so forth would not find themselves in that predicament. And so what, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the National Council on Administration of Justice is, one thing is that they have a bill now on really declassifying and sometimes removing certain petty offenses within our statute books. That will now begin to give us ways to really deal with these offenses in a way that people won't end up in prison, or people won't end up in pretrial detention. The other thing is we are now also looking at our bail and bond parameters, okay, so that also we will not be finding scenarios where, because a person does not have money, they are really spending a majority of their life incarcerated because they don't have money.
And Lady Justice Lillian, coming to you, as the chair of the National Community Service Orders Committee, and you have been going across the country, what's been your experience and observation? Because given the breakdown of the numbers that we have highlighted, it appears that we are overly have overcrowded prisons because of some unresolved matters which are before courts of law, given that you also sit at the bench.
Ayub, overcrowding in prisons currently is a matter of concern. Our facilities, that is the correctional facilities, were constructed long time ago some of them during the colonial times. They have been renovated. There have been additional ones, but they are not enough because of the population that keeps rising. Now, from my end, the only way to deal with this situation is to adopt restorative form of justice. The community service orders deals with minor offenders. Petty offenders shouldn't be in prison. We should only have hardcore prisoners in prison. Non-serious ones should be punished. They should be ordered to perform community service, that is performing unpaid public work for the benefit of the community. They should be rehabilitated. They should be made to reform by reconciling with the offenders, with the victims, instead of being in prison. So the only way to deal with these numbers, when we look at the overstretch in prison, right now, the ideal capacity of prison is 30,000 inmates, but we have slightly over 31,000. So looking at that overstretch, it is a serious matter, should be a concern to all stakeholders in the criminal justice system. We are looking at some acts being amended, but for the time being, before the amendment, what do? The only answer is to consider restorative form of justice.
Okay.
Thank you.
It takes what shape when you talk about restorative form of justice? What is the shape? How does it look like, if you were to explain?
Okay. It means the offender who is found, a person who is accused, taken through the trial process, found guilty, instead of being sentenced to a custodial sentence, they are sentenced to serve a non-custodial sentence. Community service orders is a sentencing option where the offender performs community service for the benefit of the community. There are so many benefits when you come to this sentencing option. A good example is the person will be staying with his family to fend for the family instead of being incarcerated where his family suffers. His children may also become criminals because they have to come up with various deviant means to make a living. Taxpayers' money will be saved because when an offender is in prison, the government pays for stay in prison. But when the person is out, this money is saved and channeled to some other important matters. So that is what we mean by restorative justice. The person is reformed, and the person is reconciled with the victim, and the person works for the community, which benefits. The kind of the nature of work that is done could be work like afforestation, environmental conservation. When you think of afforestation, that goes to greening of the society.
Thank you. When we get back from the break, Dr. Annette and Wangari, I'll begin with you, and then because we have a wide scope of conversation regarding this matter, and the Interior CS has said there are plans to decongest prisons. There's a fund that he said the government will be setting up. He also said he will work with the Attorney General's office on the way forward. The one inmate, one mattress initiative, which he said will help in terms of the welfare of detainees who are in prisons across the country, and how then from LSK's perspective, the awareness part of it, and also the situation across prisons in the country. You are watching Daybreak. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We continue after the break here on the broadcast. Stay tuned.